Pro-life talk. Real-world answers. This is Life Report.
Welcome to Life Report. I am your host, Josh Brom. We're here with Liz Goddard, and back with us again, Gabi Veers, Right to Life's new college outreach intern. What are we calling you again?
Outreach intern.
Outreach intern,
awesome.
Whatever. You're doing a lot of stuff with colleges,
Yeah.
so it's all good. For more of Life Report, just so you know, prolifepodcast.net, we're putting a bunch of material on there, but all the archives, we've been doing this show for 4.5 years now.
I know.
Believe it or not. And it's been a quite the ride. So if you
some
want to
gems.
check out the archives, including the Life Report classic days, those were great.
Yes.
So go
Yes.
check out prolifepodcast.net. There's speech, audio, listener mail, all kinds of stuff is up there. It's really great. Regular listeners of our show are going to know that sometimes we don't just pick on Planned Parenthood. Like you would, if you think, oh, this is great, it's a new pro-life radio show I can listen to. I bet they pick on Planned Parenthood all the time. Not really us. We talk about faulty pro-life arguments sometimes. In fact, if you go to our website, one of the main tags in the tag cloud, if you're a webby, then you know what that is. But it's all right. It's a recurring theme on the show. It's not the only thing we talk about, but we talk about bad pro-life arguments. I've even publicly stood up for Planned Parenthood in one case when people are calling them racist. I don't think they're racist. We're not going to talk about that today. But if that annoys you, if you're like, I'm a pro-lifer, I just want to listen to a pro-life show of people talking about Planned Parenthood, then you're going to like the show a little bit. I want to pick on Planned Parenthood, or especially don't want to pick on Planned Parenthood people. However, a document has come out that Planned Parenthood is a part of that I think is a ridiculous document and is very different from what we teach on the show. And so I'm not doing this show just to pick on Planned Parenthood, but I do think it's important to note the contrast between what Planned Parenthood is training their advocates to say and do and act when they're talking with pro-lifers versus what we on this show train people. I'm not going to speak for all the other pro-lifers. I don't agree with every single thing a pro-life person has ever said. Here's what to do when you're talking to a pro-choice person. But just us on this show and let's say our best friends, Stand to Reason, Justice for All, Life Training Institute.
Our BFFs.
We have our BFFs, the people that you hear from the most on the show.
Yes.
We have a different perspective on what we do with conversations. And so this document came out, and it wasn't meant to be a public document. I don't know exactly how it got leaked, but it got leaked. I kind of stumbled upon it. I don't feel like it ever made big news. Wasn't really on my radar when this came out a few months ago, but then I read it. And I thought, we have to talk about this.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to go right into it because there's so much. I'm afraid we're not going to be able to cover it all, but I'm going to kind of say, here's one of the things that they're training their advocates to do. The only important thing to note, this is not just like a media training document.
Right.
Because the way you handle media interviews, especially in a hostile environment.
Sound bites.
It's different.
Little sound bites,
And sometimes you do like the duck and cover where they ask you a question and you kind of answer the question you wish they'd asked.
You ignore it and just go to a different question. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not saying that's always bad. But this is not just a media training document. This is like, if you're talking to pro-lifers, do this stuff. And
is this issued to their staff?
Well,
as far as we know,
I don't know exactly. Okay. If I knew more about exactly how this got leaked, I could tell you what but it's clear when you read it, this is not just a media training document. So that's what I'm going from. And I'm going to link to the document. You can read the whole thing. We're not going to get through all of it, but here's just the first thing that they say.
Yeah.
Emphasize personal decision-making. They say the concept of personal decision-making is very powerful when talking about abortion. Most people show empathy and understanding for a woman facing an unintended pregnancy, and even if they don't agree with her decision, they believe it is her decision to make. Any thoughts about that?
That annoys me because it immediately puts it in the realm of relativism.
That's what I wrote. I wrote relativism.
Yes. And that never leads to a productive conversation.
Why?
Because then it's just you're talking about your personal feelings about the issue, and that's not helpful.
And who cares?
To seeking truth.
Well, it's like, I like chocolate ice cream, and you like vanilla, but,
Let's talk about that for half an hour.
We both like waffle cones, so life is great.
No wonder they don't want to talk to us. They just want to talk about personal views all the time.
Yes.
We stumbled upon one of the most important revelations of this show.
Half of our battle is getting back on topic. So this is like advising people to make our job difficult.
To actually like shoot, yeah. I mean, you're not going to have a probably very good conversation that way. I've talked to pro-life people that are like have done a lot of conversations on campuses, and they're like, I'm done talking about relativism. I'm not doing these conversations anymore because it never goes anywhere. You spend a lot of time talking about.
Josh, we can argue our day about ice cream, but I'm never going to agree. Well, I don't know. What is your favorite ice cream?
Peanut butter is the best.
Never mind. We're on the same page.
See?
Frozen yogurt.
And we just
with lots of fruit.
With lots of non-fruity things on it, like
chocolate and peanut butter wins.
Chocolate
Let's
peanut butter
move
things
on.
on it. All right. Accept ambivalence, Planned Parenthood says. Ambivalence around abortion is normal. While people may not like abortion or would not have an abortion themselves, it doesn't mean that they want to make it illegal or would want to make the decision for someone else.
Same thing. Ice cream. Some people don't like ice cream. That's okay. Go get your frozen yogurt. It's all good.
I think what's interesting about this is that, see, like, I've done sermons where I spend a whole sections of a sermon talking about the horribleness of apathy.
Yes.
Like, I hate apathy. In some
You're
ways,
not the only one who hates apathy.
Planned Parenthood likes apathy. Yeah. I think they have, and here's why. Because the status quo is legal abortion.
Apathy
so
always
if you can maintain the
favors
status quo, then I mean everything's cool. They don't, and it's not like they're trying to get everyone to like abortion. Like they've given up on that cause. They gave up on that a while ago.
Right.
But it's like, hey, it's okay. Accept ambivalence. Ambivalence is cool as long as you're not trying to make it illegal.
Ambivalence is never cool when there's any social justice issue involved.
Right.
Whenever rights are involved, ambivalence is the opposite of cool.
Imagine William Wilberforce saying, accept ambivalence. It doesn't matter.
Well, I think also even on the pro-choice side of it, if it's really about the rights of the woman, why would you want people to be ambivalent about the rights of a woman?
Because the woman already has the right that they want. That's what it is. They don't, it's a status quo thing, I think. Evoke empathy. Currently, the abortion debate is framed in, quote unquote, right and wrong.
Yes, it is.
No.
I'm glad they think that, by the way. That's what we're trying to do.
And they say shift attention away from the listener's impulse to judge whether a pregnant woman's decision was right or wrong and help the listener realize a sense of relief that they didn't have to make the decision for themselves and indeed could not make it for someone else.
There's a lot of truth in that. We need to feel empathy for people who are going through that situation, and that's something where pro-lifers have a shortfall often. And we need to try and put ourselves in the shoes of someone who's going through that, and then how can we help them make the right choice? And
just a clarification, do you think that it's an actual shortfall for a lot of pro-lifers, or do you think pro-lifers just suck at actually showing empathy for the person?
I think we suck at showing empathy because
I agree with that.
Most pro-life people I know are overflowing with love and open arms towards women in these situations. And the abundance of crisis pregnancy centers is, proof enormous of that point.
Gabi, anything?
No.
Okay, because I was going to say, when I read this, like this thought of, well, at least it wasn't me who got pregnant. Like that's not a good thought. Like, I mean, that's not compassionate. So that just kind of bothered me.
Well, we should be grateful that. Well, I mean, you can't not.
See, I'd rather not. I just don't want to go there. I just want to care about them.
Agreed.
Agreed. I think one point that they make, it's like, it's then saying that we can never make a moral judgment for the whole of society or for another person, but we do that all the time.
Right. I mean,
if someone cuts me off on the freeway, I'm making a moral judgment
about people that want to make abortion illegal.
Yeah. And we need health care and education. Those are all moral judgments.
Right. Encourage tolerance for different views on abortion. We do not need people to feel comfortable with abortion, nor do we need them to believe it's good. We do want them to refrain from concluding that their personal feelings about abortion should be translated into making abortion illegal for all women.
That just basically means any opinion different than ours doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Unless
you might change things.
You should tolerate my opinion as long as anything, that just gets to me.
I think it's a fake kind of tolerance. It's just saying, I will listen to you with a smile on my face, but if you try to change it, then I'm going to stop you.
Well, then you're being intolerant.
Right.
Because this isn't saying, that I'm going to tolerate your views. No, it's saying encourage everybody to tolerate all these multiple views, but only act on mine.
Yes.
And it's selfish.
there's a Facebook group I'm on, and just this morning was having a conversation with one of the pro-choice people on there, and I'm not going to say her name, I'm not going to say anything bad about her, because I'm not actually sure she means what she said. But what she said when we were talking about open-mindedness and closed-mindedness is that she's not open-minded. She said, I'm very closed-minded about the idea of abortion ever becoming illegal. She's like, there's no way you'll ever convince me that. You might even get me to hate abortion, but you'll never convince me that abortion should be illegal. But so then I kind of said, well, what do you mean when you say like you're open-minded? And she's like, well, I'm open to hearing your views. Okay. I'm hearing to hear other people's views. I'm open to hearing people's stories. The only thing I'm not open to is abortion becoming illegal. And so, and whether or not that's what she actually is, I'm not sure. But that would be kind of the view that I see here. Like, we'll listen to you, kind of.
That's not being open-minded. Being open-minded is being willing to admit when you're wrong, when you're shown that you're wrong.
Right.
And that's humbling. You don't do that naturally.
Right.
And that's why, being open-minded might just be, oh, everybody's good, I'll listen to you, you listen to me, but I will never change my mind. Right. That's closed-minded.
Right.
Yeah.
That's closed-minded with a nice face.
Yeah. And they said, as if you're open-minded, Josh Brom, you're the director of education of blah, blah, blah. I said, no, there's at least 2 different ways you could prove me wrong on this thing. And I know about both of them, and I'm thinking about them, and I'm still open to being proven wrong.
And you've changed your mind in the past.
About a lot of things.
We all have.
Within the abortion issue. I used to think Planned Parenthood was racist, by the way. Don't anymore. That's just a whole nother, we're not going to go there. Okay, Gabi responded to this one. Bring the discussion around to shared goals. We all want happy, healthy children and families, or for each child to be born to parents who feel ready for the responsibility.
I think that's a great goal. I think it's wonderful to find common ground. But if that's the only thing this conversation centralizes around, you're not moving anywhere. You're back to sharing your feelings about the issue. You're not seeking truth. You're not seeking to help society.
Like this common ground is almost meaningless to me. Like everybody
who
wants happy families.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
it's
but
like
that's an important
we have common
starting
ground
place.
that the Earth is round or whatever. It's like, okay, that's good, right? But it's like, come on. The question is, what are you going to do with the unwanted kids?
Right.
And when you say unwanted kid, like there's adopting couples for basically all the currently unwanted kids. But I'm just saying, like for the mom's perspective, she doesn't want her baby. The question is, what do we do with what is the moral status of that child or entity or whatever you want to call it? This one's kind of interesting to me. This one turns a corner, I think. Create a role for the listener. Role like ROLE. Many pro-choice messages are based on the theme of privacy, which may inadvertently send a signal to some listeners to stay out. Use words like we instead of they or them or you. We builds the connection between the speaker, the listener, and the pregnant woman in the message.
I don't understand what they mean there.
This is great. I love this. And this is something that pro-lifers can use a lot. Anytime that you're using inclusive language, when you're using we instead of you, when you're using even personal pronouns like him or her instead of it, those small changes in language shape the tone of the conversation.
Yeah, but what if you're talking to somebody who disagrees with you and you're using words like we, like this feels dishonest to me, the way it's being used.
Well, in a sense, and I think the way that they're framing it is, we believe in privacy. That does include the other person. And most, people do believe in privacy. So including the fact that you recognize that there's a common ground in the beliefs, it goes along kind of with the previous statement. We all want happy families.
Right.
We believe privacy is important or that people have rights, things like that.
So you're talking about finding common ground. You're saying, okay, we agree on this, but then what about this? Like, that's what we've always taught. But I think they're using it we in a different way. They're using we to kind of set the listener up or the other person up to, not be arguing so much or especially not, God forbid, trying to make abortion illegal. And that just seems very different from what you're talking about.
And if you are using it in a way to set them up, and I'm not quite sure how you would phrase that to specifically set someone up, but I think the idea of using inclusive language.
We all want, you be the pro-choice person. We all want abortion to be more rare. So why don't you join me in helping make abortion more rare by voting for pro-life legislation? That feels dishonest to me.
Well, we do agree that abortion, and maybe framing that a little bit different. I like the way there is an emphasis on inclusive language, though, because little things like that I'm a mediator. Right. Oftentimes, my job in my career is to be the neutral party to help two other parties who are fighting come to some kind of an agreement.
Right.
And a lot of times I'm saying things. Yeah, when you two start fighting. But a lot of times I use things like that where I say, now if we reach an agreement today, this is how we will take care of it. I'm not going to reach an agreement. I'm not even signing it. But using that little bit of language is a subtle cue that we're working together and it's collaborative instead of something that's confrontational. And so if you're using it honestly, though, I'm not advocating setting someone up.
I don't think they are. They're not using it necessarily. In the example here, it's almost like setting people up to say, if you do not identify yourself as the we in this conversation, then you're putting yourself against the pregnant woman in the crisis pregnancy.
Well, and any tool can be used for good or bad. So definitely, if you're putting words in someone's mouth that aren't their own, that's not helpful.
Okay, we all agree on that. This one is interesting to me. Employ the singular woman instead of women. Use of the plural more readily evokes stereotypes of irresponsible women, while use of the singular leads the listener to connect the issue to a specific woman whom he or she knows. That's relativism again, I think, for me. It's like, let's focus on the individual and her story and not the fact that there's 1.2 million abortions every year in the country.
See, you can still use that to our advantage as well.
Yeah.
So help me understand that. Maybe I've got the wrong.
The saying that, one death is a tragedy and 1,000 deaths is a statistic.
Right.
It's that concept. And they're using this tool of focusing on the singular person and their difficulty as the conversation. Well, we can do the same thing when focusing on the single child or even the single woman and focus it on a personal level. And that's not necessarily, I don't think there's anything unethical about focusing on the singular instead of the statistic.
No.
And so I think that's, again, we can steal
it's an interesting
from
tactic.
this. We can steal from this. And beyond interesting, I think it's a good tactic. Because you're taking them off of, 1 million abortions happen a year. Whatever. It's 1 million abortions happen a year. That doesn't mean anything to me.
I can understand what you're
One
saying.
person, that means something to me.
Yeah.
So I think that's good. And I think we can steal that and use it for our own purpose.
Well, I think something that's interesting that they pull out right there, it says use of the plural more readily evokes stereotypes of irresponsible women. I think it's almost like they're trying to avoid people saying that, well, fine, if you don't want women to face a crisis pregnancy, then they shouldn't be having sex or they should be using contraception. Sure. And they're trying to, I think, move away from that kind of a stereotype, which I'm fine with. Yeah.
Okay, let's do another one of these. The decision is about parenting, not abortion. At its core, the decision about abortion is a decision about becoming a parent, or in many cases, a decision parents grapple with. Becoming a parent is an aspiration for the vast majority of Americans. Having an abortion is not. So the decision is about parenting, not abortion.
Well, that's an interesting focus. If that's going to be the focus, then the first question that needs to be answered is, when do you become a parent?
Precisely.
And that's the difference. We believe you become a parent when you have a child, and that would be at conception. And so if that's the case, then discussion over. And if that's not the case, then they win.
One of the tricky things about this is some people have a view that, being a parent with the kind of obligations that come with being a parent is something that is consent based. Basically, you consent to being.
No, it's not. Have you been in a family courtroom? Being a parent is not something you consent to.
Share a little bit about your experience.
If you are a man, if you are a man and you have a child, you are responsible for that child. Want it or not, whether you drove her to a clinic or not, you're responsible for that child. You're responsible for their child support. You're probably responsible for some form of spousal support to go along with that. You're responsible for their medical care. That's the first thing that's deducted from anyone's paycheck in a wage garnishment. It's child support. It doesn't matter if you consented. Consent-based parenting is not the structure of this culture for men, and it's not for women who already have a child. The only time that consent or choice is involved is in the specific instance of a woman who's still pregnant,
which is what we're
debating.
So, but I think it's valuable that you said that because I think that this, if you have a long enough conversation about it, a lot of times it will go here. And I agree. I think talking about men paying child support is the best kind of go-to example.
And I think they should, and I think most pro-abortion people think they should too. So
pro-choice people or
pro-choice people.
All right.
Yeah. Pro-abortion choice will be good here.
Okay, so we're not going to do all of these, but so I'm just going to. They've got these sample statements, which are basically they're asking everybody to please beg the question. It's just not what's written on here because everything is presupposed. But let's just do one of them. A woman may have an abortion for any number of reasons. Some of these reasons may not seem right to us, but even if we disagree, it is better that each person be able to make her own decision.
More relativism.
Yeah.
Yes.
Apply it to slavery.
Oh, apply it to
a plantation
any moral
owner
situation.
may have a slave or own a slave for any number of reasons. Some of these reasons may not seem right to us, but even here in the year 1860. But even if we disagree, it is better that each person be able to make his own decision. It doesn't work anymore. So the question is this right or wrong?
Yes, that works with preferences, and that even works with some personal decisions. But your
You're saying
ability,
what they're talking about.
But right. That the ambivalence, the everybody make up your own decision. But that stops working the moment you violate someone else's right.
Right.
You could talk about. I mean, we just experienced the Batman killer in the movie theater in Aurora, Colorado.
Right.
He may have had the right to pretend he was the Joker and go out, but the moment he starts killing people, that's a tragedy. And I don't understand his reasons. What he did was wrong, and so that's an example that everybody right now is talking about being wrong. That could be a link of common ground that helps people realize that, okay, if that's wrong, even though we don't understand his reasons, maybe other things are wrong.
I'm going to move us to something else, and we never got to talk about this other page. In fact, I think we'll record a little bit of bonus footage of us talking more about this page, but I'll just summarize it. They basically have all these tactics for what to do when pro-lifers are asking you questions, and there's these different versions based on the question. But basically the summary is don't answer the question. It's like
get around it.
Find one word they used and capitalize on that, and just spin out your own Planned Parenthood talking point. That's basically what they say, and this is just. I just want to make the point it's very, very different from when we're talking about dialogue. What I have in my mind is you've got two people. Ideally, both of them are open-minded. If they're both closed-minded, no good happens. If only one of them is open-minded, a limited amount of good happens. Yeah. So get two open-minded people together, it's awesome because you get to go together and weigh arguments and see which ones explain the world better. And then somebody, maybe both of them, actually have a change of mind by the end of it. When we talk about asking questions, we're not just talking about asking questions to gain an edge in the conversation because they're very effective. Yeah. We want to ask questions because we love the other person and we care about them and we actually want to know what they think because it might actually change the way we think. It's not just the Socratic method. When we listen, we're not just listening so that hopefully they can say a word that we like that we can try to twist into our pro-life talking point. When we find common ground, it's not this baloney common ground that doesn't matter at all. We're actually trying to find common ground to help move the conversation forward. They're just very, very different things.
Yes.
Okay, here's the question for you guys that I want to spend the last few minutes of the show on. Our listeners, at some point, if they talk to people, and boy, I sure hope if you're listening, you actually end up talking to pro-choice people. You're going to end up talking to people that basically have either read this document or something similar because I've talked to especially Planned Parenthood volunteers that do this. So let's just offer some practical tips. What do you do when you're talking to someone who's clearly not really listening to you and is just going off of talking points? Gabi.
I think to ask probing questions, to turn the tables in the conversation, start asking them questions like, why do you believe that? Why do you believe that that decision is just like the decision of what kind of flavor of ice cream you're going to choose? What reason do you have for that? And probe deeper and deeper until they're forced to examine their own beliefs about that instead of just spouting propaganda.
Yeah. And while you're doing that, finding what's important to them. They might be saying, well, we all want happy and healthy families. And that's why Planned Parenthood exists, is we want people to be happy and healthy. And, it sounds like being happy and healthy is very important to you. Why is that? And start to find what their interests and values
Doesn't
are.
Everybody automatically want to be happy and healthy?
That's an example. But you know what? Maybe
you're trying to find somewhere to go, though.
Maybe they didn't have a happy and healthy childhood.
I don't want to be happy and healthy.
And they might have a personal reason in their past for believing the way they do. And so when you find what's important to them.
You're trying to get to know them.
Right. And what specifically is important to them.
Yeah.
Because most of these people, they're not giving these talking points just because someone gave them a piece of paper. It's because someone gave them a way to express what they believe.
Without feeling awkward or scared or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's a
and
really
so
good point.
digging for some of those deeper interests and common ground that we might have is a great way to find out what they really care about. And then maybe if we both really care about privacy, or we both really care about being in a non-abusive situation, we can move on from there and move on in a non-confrontational way.
I think narrating the debate is very helpful. And I don't know who coined that term, but Greg Koukl and Scott Klusendorf use it a lot. Narrating the debate is like you're having the conversation and it's not going well. So then you like pause the discussion and you kind of proverbially, step to the side and you narrate what's going on. So I might say something like, okay, like I keep asking you questions, and then it seems like you keep on just kind of running to this talking point, and did you read that Planned Parenthood document or whatever? and I think like if someone's really doing this, like for a long time doing this, I would actually use the word lame. Like, this is lame. We're not actually having a conversation. I'm asking you questions. I really care about your answer, but you're not giving me your answer. You're giving me some talking point from somebody else, and I want to hear what you think. And this is what I'm trying to do. I want to have an actual dialogue. So can we try to do that? And you get back into it. So you've narrated the debate and then go back into it.
I would just say, be careful in your use of lame.
Don't say they're lame.
Because you're not going to call the other person lame.
Don't say they're lame. Say this is lame. What's going on here where I try to ask you a question, and for 10 minutes now, all we've done is go back to the same talking point. This is dumb. Come on. Let's have a conversation. Part
of that is building a rapport where someone feels safe to talk about what they really care about.
If they don't like you, don't say we're lame. But whatever, just find some way to say what's true. And what's true is this is lame. That what's going on here. And we should have a dialogue. We should have a really good, what if we both were open-minded? I'm really, and I've said this before a bunch of times. Look, they're like, you're not open-minded. I am. I've changed my mind about all kinds of stuff in this. You know why? Why? Usually because I talked to a really smart pro-choice person. So change my mind on something. Let's have a dialogue. And so we've got more to say on that. If you go to prolifepodcast.net, search for Goals for a Dialogue. I released an 8-minute audio of me just talking about goals for a dialogue. When is it time that you just leave? When is it time that it's just there's no point to having the conversation? I answer that question in that audio. You can find it at prolifepodcast.net. Thanks for listening. Have a great week.
You've been watching Life Report, Pro-Life Talk, Real World Answers. Life Report is produced by Right to Life of Central California. Visit their website at fresnoprolife.org.
Join us September 22nd for an interactive pro-life training on turning abortion debates into dialogues, followed by an outreach at Fresno City College. For more information, email Kyle at righttolifeca.org. That's Kyle at righttolifeca.org.